clicking and stuff in the background. Alright, so the next game we're going to take a look at is CJ's herO versus DongRaeGu in the GSL Season 1, Group A of Code S, round of 32. This is going to be mostly from the Protoss perspective, since we have done Zerg and Terran already. So let's go ahead and take a look at this replay. And of course, if you are watching this on VODs, I do this live on Twitch. You can see the channel up there, and it's Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern. So yeah, check that out if you wanted to participate. But we'll go ahead and jump into the game here. This is going to be on Heavy Rain, which is not a map that's in the map pool anymore, but still, the lessons that can be learned from this can still apply to any map. It doesn't really make that big of a difference. So we'll go ahead and check out this game here. Now, something I also should mention is that a lot of, I mean, these replays are about 3 or 4 months old. It depends on which games we're watching particularly, but since we're so early in the season right now, these are pretty old. But at the same time, the metagame for Heart of the Swarm is slowing down so much that these replays are going to be applicable for quite a while. So even though they are a little bit dated, these are still going to be very useful replays to learn from. And you guys can definitely check out the replays for yourself, as WCS does release all of them, so that's not a bad idea. So based upon this first pylon positioning, herO is just going to be going ahead and opening up with a gateway expand. So it shouldn't be anything too weird. No cannon rushes or anything like that we're going to have to deal with. Now, DongRaeGu, we should mention, is a GSL champion, so he's a super good player. CJ herO is fairly new onto the scene, but he's really made a big splash thus far. He's done things that you really wouldn't expect. Won a lot of IEM events. He even placed second in the $100,000 IEM event, which is like so bad for him because you get $0 for finishing in second in that event. So even still, he's going to be a player that's around for a really long time. And the thing that's really unique about herO is that he doesn't actually have a lot of tricks up his sleeve. He's not one of these players like MC that's just kind of like, oh, I'll just make some units and kill you. Or somebody like SOS that does something so weird that people aren't really expecting it. So, I mean, it's a strange balance here. herO is actually one of these players that just gets into games and he just kind of makes units and he just makes the best of it. So he's going to be one of the players you want to pay attention to if you're wondering about control, if you're wondering about decision making in game. He's kind of like the Pult to Protoss in the sense that he doesn't do anything particularly special with his builds, doesn't do anything crazy or wild. He just plays normal and he just grinds out games into a position where he feels comfortable. So the 3 hatch is coming up here for DRG. We should note it is 3 hatch before pool, so this is super early. Now, from the Protoss perspective, you need to figure out what's going on as soon as possible, and this probe is going to see that as it starts to rally up here. He does see the 3rd hatchery, and if you look at the clock, you can see, wow, that hatchery started before 3 minutes. It has to be 3 hatch before pool. And then you can decide how to punish that if you want to. So what hero's going to do, he's just going to produce a couple of units before he puts down his Nexus, and he's going to force DRG to put out some units before he really wants to. You'll notice the warp gate started really late. The mothership core hasn't started as well, but she can be part of the fun as far as pressuring this 3 hatch before pool. And these are little plays you can do to help get yourself ahead in this type of situation. You can't just let a Zerg run wild and make as many drones as you want to, because that's never going to be to your liking unless you are equally as greedy as the Zerg. And it's not like you can take a 3rd Nexus and be equally as greedy. So in this case, you need to force them to spend their larva and money on things that will not help them advance in the game. So he's already forcing out some Zerglings. Even just seeing this one Zealot and probe up here, you can figure there's probably going to be some type of follow-up, because there wouldn't be any more aggression behind that for no reason. So up comes the rest of the units. He has to produce more than that. At minimum, he'll have to pull some Queens over there and deal with it that way. Mothership core is on the way as well. I'd say most of the time this forces out about 10 or 12 Zerglings, which you can equate out to about 5 or 6 less drones that he could have. And that's a pretty big deal, especially if they're being greedy like this. You need to find a way to slow them down the best you can. Back at home for herO though, Forge on the way, Nexus on the way, which we can see on the production tab, so nothing too wild. Here's 6 more Zerglings. So far he's forced 10. He's going to force the Queens to relocate, which means they're not going to be able to get on top of their injects. So all these little things that he's doing is going to add up into be something fairly favorable. And ultimately for herO, the only trade-off is that he might lose these units, yes, but at the same time, he only lost some time on his Nexus, and he still forced DRG to do something that he didn't want to do right away. So herO needs to find a way to get out of there. He should actually just walk away with all these units right now realizing that there's not much he's going to be able to do anymore. And now the Zergling's coming up here. This is a big problem. The Stalker's going to get surrounded. He just back himself into a corner and kill it as fast as possible. Trying to target down the weakest Zerglings just to try and keep the Stalker alive for as long as he can. But either way, Zealot trying to, or rather does just get kind of off course and kills nothing. So, except for himself. So +1 on the way for herO. 2 more gateways. Nothing too wild so far. The +1 attack is curious though. That's going to lend itself to some type of gateway timing here in the near future. So we'll have to see what herO wants to do with that. There's no Stargates, no Robos, nothing like that. So shouldn't be anything too wild. But the 2 extra gases is lending itself to probably some type of tech here in the very near future. Seems more than likely like Stargate, I would say. Usually you can put out a Stargate to produce Phoenixes and of course try and kill drones and Overlords and Queens and stuff like that. Gateways are now done transforming and Warpins will begin. It's just going to be a lot of sentries here. And considering there's no tech, it's not going to be anything like an Immortal play. So more than likely this is just going to be for a Nexus. So we'll have to see what he's able to do with that. Of course he is trying to force out Spore Crawlers with this fake Oracle, and DRG calls him out on it and cancels his Spore Crawlers. So herO just trying to do the most minimal things possible to try to get DRG to overreact in some way. Twilight Council is finishing up, +1 is finishing up as well. He is showing Nexus right now as he is pulling a probe down here, but he is showing a little bit of aggression. Something I did see recently in a game was MC controlling this little ramp right here of Zerg, just with sentries and Warpins and not actually doing anything with it. And once again, his goal here is to try to get him to produce stuff that is not drones. So 49 drones right now. If DRG doesn't take this seriously, it could get totally out of control. So he's producing 20 Zerglings right now, and herO has to say, okay, well, so far I've only used energy. I haven't lost any units. DRG is making a whole bunch of Zerglings right now, which he has to, or else he would die if I was just all-inning him. Of course, DRG doesn't know about the fact that there's a 3rd Nexus right now, which if he did, it would make it so that he would not react to that potential all-in or timing or whatever at all. So Blink is coming up, +2 coming up, and herO is basically saying, alright, my work is done here. DRG's drone count is still super low, 52 drones on a 3 hatch per 4 pool at this time in the game is a really, really big win for him. But a lot of Zerglings are rallying up here, and the Zealot was not in the correct position, so that's a big problem. So the overcharge is coming down here at the natural. Does he have enough for it in the main? Yes, he does. So that's one way you can throw away everything you work for, is by having your Zealot off position by 1. But now these Zerglings are trapped. They're not going to do anything else. So herO still doing okay against this. He did lose, I think, a handful of workers there. Yeah, only 3. So herO's still doing really well in this game so far. A lot of Zerglings just trying to get out of there. Yeah, herO just drops force fields to trap these things in. They're not doing anything at all. So let's review what herO has forced out so far. He forced out a lot of Zerglings that were not useful in the early game when he did that early attack. Then he followed it up with just a few Warpins and forced even more units that wound up not doing anything at all as well. They would have done even less if he had a Zealot in the right position there. So I guess the whole motto so far of the opening is that herO has forced DRG to do a lot of things that DRG doesn't want to do. And by that I mean produce units that don't do anything. Even catching more units over here is herO. So herO just getting amazing trades in this game so far. And even still you might look at it and say, well, DRG's up 20 workers, and DRG has Swarm Hosts on the way, to which herO doesn't really have a response for. And that's true. I guess the only thing I can falter herO for is just he's not producing the workers like he should be. I think he's getting a little bit flustered and thinking that he hasn't done as much damage as he actually has. So Swarm Hosts are now out, and there's no way you can engage this just with this army composition, so herO knows he has to go home. The other thing he knows is that he has quite a bit of time before the Swarm Hosts become a real threat. And the interesting thing from DRG is he's now producing Roaches to help add on here, because DRG is fearing yet another big attack out of herO, and that's just not what's coming. So once again, herO trying to force out units that DRG doesn't want to produce. If you're Zerg, you never want to produce Roaches. You'd rather produce more tech-heavy units, just because Roaches kind of scale really poorly as the game goes on. So herO, once again, just doing these little moves to try and get DRG to produce units that he doesn't want to make, and getting a pretty decent advantage because of it. Hive is now on the way, more than likely for Vipers, to try and help compensate, or rather protect the Swarm Hosts. But things like Ultralisks as a transition are not out of the question. Like we were talking about in another replay recently, if you're Zerg and you get them to overcommit to responding to one of your aggressive tech paths like Swarm Hosts, and you switch into something else that responds really well to it, then you're going to be in great shape. So in this case, I mean, we have to know that the only response here is Colossus. You can even see a second Robo starting for Colossus against the Swarm Host. So that's going to be basically the only way long-term that Protoss is going to be able to deal with Swarm Hosts. So then you have to really be wary. What's the follow-up after Swarm Hosts? Is it just going to be more Swarm Hosts? Is it going to be Mutalisks? Is it going to be Ultralisks or something crazy like that that will deal pretty well against the Stalker Colossus army? You have to be on top of that information. So that's why hallucination scouting is so important, to continue to follow up and figure out what's going on. Warp Prism coming in here, and this is one big thing you can do, especially against Swarm Hosts, is drop your Warp Prism, or rather keep your Warp Prisms active and wear him out, because his Swarm Host can't be covering everything. So the Zealots trying to be dropped out to surround this Queen, they're not going to be able to do that. But either way, he didn't lose anything. All he lost were actions. And he did move DRG's army quite out of position, so he can start kind of moving around with the rest of his army and seeing what he can get done. So if he comes over here and he gets good enough force fields, this hatchery is still weakened from that attack earlier in the game, so let's not forget that. Could be a big problem here. Hallucinating Colossus is herO, and he can start sniping off a couple of these Swarm House now that he has detection. And if not, he can just wall it off. He can focus down the hatchery and recall out if he needs to. So herO just doing these subtle little things once again to move DRG's army out of position, dropping force fields everywhere. He does target down the hatchery, and he recalls right away. So herO, whoa, just totally out of control here, completely picking apart DRG thus far with just tiny, tiny little insignificant moves, such as forcing him to produce units he doesn't want to. He's still on 3 bases, yes, but at this time as Zerg, you want to be thinking about taking your 5th. So once again, trying to peel him apart here. herO coming into the main with the Zealots, gonna drop them off. He could even show a Warp in, even though he doesn't have that much money. Viper does pull that in here, so that's kind of funny. And he was trying to get a second attack with the Zealots over on the base that was being restarted, so he could have gotten that again if DRG overreacted. But he didn't. Either way, Zealots kill a Geyser. They're not really that important anyway, so they're gonna die. But herO really just demonstrating the power of being patient in this matchup, and the power of kind of messing with the Zerg a little bit in ways of making them paranoid, in ways of making them not really understand everything that's going on right away. So herO just doing a really fantastic job so far. Now GRG, of course, he's in a supply lead still. He has a really good composition, but the problem is just that he's not going to be able to take a 5th base for a little while, at least until he cleans that out. And herO's multi-pronging has begun. So herO's sending some Zealots over here. As soon as DRG's army reports down there, these spines are not done. As soon as DRG's army reports, he could pull these units over here. He could start gaining position on the map with his main army, so we'll have to see if that's what he wants to do. So herO, is he going to get this last spine? No, not quite. So DRG has to expend more drones, spend more on spine crawlers. herO can take a 4th base pretty much uncontested, and that's another big part of this, is that if your opponent is constantly defending, then you can take expansions pretty much as willingly as you want to, so you'll be in great shape that way. But a lot of Swarm Hosts still starting to rally up here. There hasn't been a big transition here out of DRG, and I have to say that's probably going to hurt him as the game goes on, because this map is so tiny. A few force fields can block off all those locusts, and all of a sudden the Swarm Hosts won't be doing much. herO adding on another Stargate right now, anticipating that there could be some sort of big switch in progress, but we'll have to see what he's able to do. There's yet another Warp Prism. There's so many Warp Prisms out for herO all the time, constantly harassing him, constantly trying to get this army to move around. If he loses these Roaches, that's going to be a big deal, so Blink's on top of him. That's one thing with Blink, is you can always dictate where the battles are going to be happening. And a huge Warpin in the main here as well, as he realizes the Roaches are out of position. So now that the Roaches are out of position, he's got a great position with his main army on DRG's base. Storm is now done, which we totally missed on the production tab, but even still, he could wind up losing this hatchery once again. And the Warpins in the main are going to continue to grow, assuming herO can stay on top of that and continue to keep his Zealots active. So again, just tiny little multi-pronging, trying to get DRG's army out of position. He will have to clean that up. He does have the resources to do that. He can also recall home and deal with that just fine as well. So not doing a ton right there, just trying to poke around and see what he can get done. But at the same time, it opened him up for a huge Warpin in the main. And if he gets the Hive, that's going to be a big, big deal. And yeah, there it goes down. DRG has to start morphing his lair at his natural. Trying to remorph your lair at 20 minutes in the game is not a very ideal place to be. Even still, DRG is okay. We didn't lose a lot of army there. Of course, the lair, or rather the Hive being down, means that he really can't produce Vipers anymore. Did he actually lose his infestation pit as well? No, it's right there. Okay. Either way, herO. Again, this is how herO plays. He just doesn't do anything crazy. This build was not anything special whatsoever. This build was just like, okay, I'm playing Protoss, I'll just do whatever. And it turned into him multi-pronging DRG down to a point where herO is in a very stable position in this game so far. A lot of Templars with Storm. Not overcommitting with the Colossus, only 4, especially on this map, realizing that he doesn't need a lot of Colossus firepower to deal with the Locust effectively. And at this point, what's DRG supposed to do? He's starting to turtle up quite a bit with this many static defenses, but he doesn't even have a 5th base yet, and herO has a 4th. This is really annoying, the burrowed roaches here for DRG, so if you're Protoss, you definitely need to find a way to deal with that as well. Maybe put a cannon behind. And herO just trying to multi-prong once again. He has some Zealots killing a base over here. It attracts the roaches. Look at the insane positioning on his army once again, so he can get basically whatever position he wants while the roaches are out. So this is why you don't want to produce roaches if you're Zerg, is just because they're just so inefficient and so slow. Now there's an attack in the main base once again, so herO just basically being everywhere that DRG's army is not. Is he going to get this hatchery again? It's going to be close, and no, the Queen Transfusing actually should stop it, and he just picks up in the Warp Prism and gets back out of there. So herO just multi-pronging DRG completely to death, getting a huge advantage in this game right now. I have to say, herO is in a big advantage right now. There are 3 Stargates now being produced, or at least there will be a total of 3 once that one's done. Are the Zealots going to kill this base as well? So, I mean, even as casting this game, or at least you can see, it's hard to even keep up with everything that's going on. He's going to barely get it! Oh, the last Zealot swipe gets it. So, a crazy, crazy game here right now, but herO demonstrating the fact that if you can just multi-prong Zerg and get their army out of position, you can gain whatever position you want with yours. And finally, he should eventually just decide that, okay, I can attack this, I can probably kill this hatchery and get out of there, but this is not the time. He's now trying to re-multi-prong with his Warp Prism once again. Just flying in there, seeing what's there, and if there's nothing there, just back it out, so nothing lost. So herO just going completely crazy right now. Starting to add on Stargates is, or rather, are these Void Rays coming out? That doesn't even make sense, but there are +1 shields on the way as well. The Void Ray Colossus composition is going to be increasingly hard to deal with as DRG, because he just basically has no real foundation right now. He still doesn't have a 5th base, having such a hard time dealing with the multi-prong aggression here out of herO. There are queens and stuff back in the main, so DRG should be okay there, but if this army ever gets positioned from herO, then that's going to be bad news for DRG. Warp Prism thinking about coming back in, he decides not to. Swarm hosts have to relocate. And if you can force the Swarm host to relocate and realize that there are Locusts coming out here rather than at the other base, and all of a sudden your army can go pretty much wherever it wants to. Note that he's had basically no pressure on any of his bases at all this entire game from the Swarm hosts. And this is one big thing to consider if you're fighting against Swarm hosts, is how am I going to make the Swarm host defensive rather than attacking my base? Because if you're taking damage from the Swarm host, then that's pretty bad. This can really stack up and be hard to deal with. But if his Swarm hosts are just sitting at his base and doing nothing, these might as well just be roaches, because they're not attacking you, they're not putting any long-term pressure on you, and I mean, he's free to do basically whatever he wants back home, because the Swarm hosts are so slow, they're never going to be able to get out on the map and do anything of significance for that long. Now this army's starting to press up here once again. And because that's happening, he can start seeing big Warpins over here. He hallucinates a bunch of Colossus as well. Just kind of walks them in. I don't know what that's all about. But either way, the fight's starting to come down here, and eventually the Protoss is going to get into an army that can deal with Locusts and just kind of run over them, no problem. So the Storms and Colossus shots coming down on the Locusts are going to deal with them just almost instantly. And again, this is one of those situations where I think he actually lost his motion core this time, but he could just kill the hatchery and walk away. It looks like that's not what he wants to do so far. I'm surprised we're not seeing another prong of attack here out of herO, but even still, the Void Rays are so strong. The Stalker's finally getting through, getting on top of the Infestors, really dealing a lot of damage so far. And DRG is going to be back down to basically 1 base's worth of mining here in just a second. So this is getting really out of control. herO demonstrating the fact that if you can get Zerg out of position, and you can get whatever position you want with your army, eventually you're going to get into a composition that's so strong you can attack basically whatever you want. Right now he's just trying to target down all the queens so that the Void Rays can live for as long as they want to, and target down the Swarm hosts that are in the ground, excuse me. So herO really doing super well with this attack right now. this is what the deal was with the Void Ray transitions. Eventually, he might be able to run over your Colossus and stuff, but the Void Rays are still on the field, then what do you do about that? Hatchery finally dies. And look at this, DRG is mining on these 8 patches. There are no patches in his natural, and no patches, well, basically no patches in his main. There'll be 0 in just a second. So herO has a free base here, it's never been under duress. herO's just in an outstanding position right now. Little Roach counterattack, but even still, that's the point of the Void Race as well. Can shut these down fairly easily. He had a lot of gas, so he could warp in a lot of Archons. I don't know what the deal is with the mouse clicking over on the other side, but herO just really dominating right now. Kind of taking DRG to school in terms of, you're going to make Swarm Hosts, huh? Well, those Swarm Hosts are basically going to sit in your base all game because I'm going to be all over you the entire game. So, more Colossus being incremented out. +2 air was on the way for just a second. I think it just finished up, yeah. So, herO just in a crazy position right now. Look at DRG's just tatters of an army at this point. Only a handful of Swarm Hosts, some Roaches, basically like no economy. About half that of the Protoss, and the Protoss isn't even mining as efficiently as he could be right now. Some of the workers just kind of sitting around, and also not being balanced, you know, amazingly. The worker count's only 69 for herO, which is pretty low, but still, I mean, he's just so far ahead right now. Even trying to poke in with some DTs and seeing what he can get was herO. And again, there's no issue with multi-pronging if you can just control properly, because if those DTs walked in here and died, and it's like, yeah, well, that's a waste, but if he realizes that those DTs are going to die and nothing happens, then he just uses them up some APM, and maybe he moved his army out of position. But yeah, herO just, again, the classic example of, I'm just going to make stuff, and I'm just going to get into a game, and I'm going to eventually outplay you because I know much more about army positioning and multi-pronging you and making you so defensive that you can't even get out of your base. So, herO continuing to press up here. This should pretty much end the game. I mean, herO's army is just insane right now. Only thing holding us back is Swarm Hosts and some Queens, maybe some Roaches here and there that are going to die basically instantly to the incredible upgrades we're seeing out of herO right now. And yeah, DRG's supply totally plummeting. herO just stomping in there right now. So this, I felt like this was a really good sort of standard PvZ to learn from. In this particular game, this game was not about, DRG just says GG. This game was not about the crazy builds or the unique strategies that herO pulled out. herO pulled out very super normal stuff. Just sentries, expand. Force some units out that DRG doesn't want to produce, go back home. It was just all these facets of being patient and then eventually just ripping DRG apart with the constant Warp Prism harass all over the map and constant warp ins everywhere. And that's the whole point that I kind of wanted to make with this, is that if you're getting into a game where you don't know what your victory condition is, if you can start using Warp Prisms to warp in units back here, maybe warp in some units back here and start messing with them, then if his whole army has to go there to report to it, your army can get wherever you want. So you can kill hatcheries, you can get in positions where he doesn't want to fight. Like, for example, he kept fighting over here, and as a Zerg, you have like no surface area to deal with those Colossus, and that can be a big problem. So herO kind of just taking DRG to school in that replay. So I hope you guys enjoyed that game as well. I'm going to see if anybody wants to do any sort of requested replay reviews as far as either other WCS games or their own replays. So I'll just run music for a little bit, and if you guys are watching this live, then post your replays that you want me to review, and we'll get on those. So I guess stay here and hang out with me for just a little bit.